Dozens of Ukrainians are dead, including soldiers this morning, as Russia has launched a full-scale invasion into Ukraine. People are trying to flee Ukraine, sparking chaos, large traffic jams within the country. U.S. troops in Poland now reportedly headed to the border to help as Americans and other nationals try to escape. Joining me right now is Hermitage Capital CEO Bill Browder, who knows the Russian government and Putin quite well. Bill, thanks very much for being here this morning. Your reaction to what has taken place overnight?
I think this is the worst possible scenario we could have imagined. Everybody was hoping and praying that Putin was bluffing, that this was a way to try to get concessions. The fact that he has invaded a foreign country, killed innocent civilians, redrawn the map, and violated the sovereignty of Ukraine is a total game changer as far as international peace and security is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, President Biden said that he's going to be announcing new sanctions on Russia when he addresses the country later this afternoon. So far, anything that this administration has said has been weak. They have done an executive order putting sanctions on 2 Kremlin-backed banks, but those banks were already sanctioned from the Crimea invasion in 2014. Russian elites are also facing sanctions, some oligarchs, and the company behind the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. But of course, the certification of the pipeline was not expected until the summer, so that could change as well. What do you want to see from Biden this afternoon?
So what we need to do right now, when I say we, I mean the United States, the UK, the EU, Canada, Australia, is impose real devastating costs on Vladimir Putin for doing what he's done. And what do I mean by devastating costs? We need to go after his money, Vladimir Putin's money. And the way to go after his money is to go after the 50 or so oligarchs who hold his money in the West and freeze that money. And then beyond that, I think at this point, it justifies cutting Russia off from the SWIFT international banking system. That's what we did with Iran. That put them back to the Stone Ages economically, and that's what ultimately forced them back to the negotiating table. That's what has to be done with Vladimir Putin right now. If we do not impose devastating economic costs on him, then the next stop is going to be NATO countries that he's going to challenge to see whether we're ready to stand up for our NATO allies. And we need to show him well before that there's real punishment coming from what he's done.
Well, it's a great point. Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, made the same point about SWIFT earlier. I'm with Christian Whiten this morning. He's a former official at the State Department. Christian, weigh in here in terms of what we might hear from the administration and whether or not these economic sanctions that Bill talks about will be enough to stop Putin.
Well, I don't think Biden actually is going to do that with SWIFT. As we've talked about earlier, Germany and other European countries would have to go along. They were extremely hesitant to do that with Iran. And in fact, Berlin and London and Paris, our wonderful European allies, colluded with Iran to try and get a workaround to strong U.S. sanctions on Iran. There's a real question. I mean, how is Europe going to buy gas from Russia if they're kicked out of SWIFT? Maybe they can create a separate mechanism that doesn't require them to put gold in suitcases full of 500 euro notes on planes and send them to Russia. Are we willing to deal with the consequences of Russia and China and Iran creating some alternative to SWIFT, to creating an alternative to dollar-denominated international transactions if we kick Russia out of the banking system? So that's what Biden is dealing with, and they've been weak all along. I think we also have to ask about downstream consequences of this, which might include a very weak deal with Iran, something that lets Iran get a nuclear capability, essentially have all the tools to get that, and also lets all of the Iranian oil back onto the market.
Well, it's just extraordinary what this president has allowed our adversaries to do. He has, in fact, enriched our adversaries and will do so with an Iran deal, has already enriched China, and, of course, has not been tough enough on Russia. All the while, Americans are getting poorer with inflation eating into their disposable income. Bill Browder, you know this government of Russia well. They tried to choke you out of the financial system so many years ago. Your thoughts on where this goes next? Do you think Putin will, in fact, try to attack a NATO country and launch America into this war?
Well, so Putin has crossed the Rubicon by invading Ukraine, a full-scale military invasion. He's crossed over into an area that nobody ever expected, wanted, or knows what to do with. And now he's on a roll. And he is now going to test out every bit of resolve from us to see where we stand. And I think it's quite likely that the next stop after Ukraine is some NATO country to see whether we all are, one for one and one for all, which is the NATO promise. He wants to see whether that's real or not, because Vladimir Putin, if he can split up NATO, then he can basically do whatever he wants.
You have said in the past he is the richest man in the world, or one of the richest men in the world already, right?
He is. He's spent the last 20 years primarily using his presidency to steal money from the Russian people. 5 years ago, I testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's worth $200 billion. I'm sure the number is a lot higher than that right now. And so the one thing we can do without a single drop of American blood is to freeze his assets. And the way we can freeze his assets is by going after the people who hold those assets, who are these Russian oligarchs. And we know who they are. There's no mystery who these people are. And the United States and our allies can freeze the assets. And that is something that's targeted. It goes after Putin directly, and it will make him bear a real personal price to what he's done. Yeah.
Well, there's also the capital markets angle. There are Russian companies in indexes and indices across America that unwitting Americans are investing in and perhaps funding the expansion of the Russian army and military. Bill, we'll be watching all of that, and we'll be watching to see if Joe Biden has any real answers to this. Thank you very much. Bill Browder joining us on Russia.